When all the kings who were beyond the Jordan, in the hill country, and in the lowland, and on all the shores of the great sea in front of Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard of it, they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon learned what Joshua had done at Jericho and to Ai, they also resorted to a ruse, and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks on their donkeys, and old torn up and bound up wineskins, and old patched sandals on their feet, and wore old garments. All the bread of their food supply was dry and mouldy. They went to Joshua at the camp of Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, "We have come from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us." The men of Israel said to the Hivites, "What have you live among us? How could we make a covenant with you?" They said to Joshua, "We are your servants." Joshua said to them, "Who are you? Where do you come from?" They said to him, "Your servants have come from a very far-off country, because of the name of Yahweh your God, for we have heard of his fame, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon, and to Og king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Our elders and all the inhabitants of my country spoke to us, saying, 'Take supplies in your hand for the journey, and go to meet them. Tell them, we are your servants. Now make a covenant with us. This our bread we took, hot for our supplies, out of our houses on the days we went out to go to you. But now, behold, it is dry and has become mouldy. These wineskins which we filled were new, and behold, they are torn. These, our garments and our sandals, have become old because of the very long journey.' The men sampled their provisions and didn't ask counsel from Yahweh's mouth. Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. The princes of the congregation swore to them. At the end of 3 days after they had made a covenant with them, they heard that they were their neighbors and that they had lived among them. The children of Israel traveled and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. The children of Israel didn't strike them because the princes of the congregation had sworn to them by Yahweh, the God of Israel. All the congregation murmured against the princes, but all the princes said to the congregation, "We have sworn to them by Yahweh, the God of Israel, and now therefore we may not touch them. We will do this to them, and let them live, lest wrath be on us, because of the oath which we swore to them." The princes said to them, "Let them live." So they became woodcutters and drawers of water for all the congregation, as the princes had spoken to them. Joshua called for them, and he spoke to them, saying, "Why have you deceived us, saying, 'We are very far from you,' when you live among us? Now therefore you are cursed, and some of you will never fail to be slaves, both woodcutters and drawers of water for the houses of my God." They answered Joshua and said, "Because your servants were certainly told how Yahweh your God commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. Therefore we were very afraid for our lives because of you, and have done this thing. Now behold, we are in your hand. Do to us as it seems good and right for you to do." He did so to them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, so that they didn't kill them. That day Joshua made them woodcutters and drawers of water for the congregation and for Yahweh's altar to this day, in the place which he should choose. Now when Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, they were very afraid, because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon, saying, "Come up to me and help me. Let's strike Gibeon, for they have made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel." Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered themselves and went up, they and their armies, and encamped against Gibeon, and made war against it. The men of Gibeon sent to Joshua at the camp at Gilgal, saying, "Don't abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. Help us, for all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the hill country have gathered together against us." So Joshua went up from Gilgal, he and the whole army with him, including all the mighty men of valor. Yahweh said to Joshua, "Don't fear them, for I have delivered them into your hands. Not a man of them will stand before you." Joshua therefore came to them suddenly. He marched from Gilgal all night. Yahweh confused them before Israel. He killed them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and chased them by way of the ascent of Beth Horon, and struck them to Azekah and to Makkedah. As they fled from before Israel, while they were in the descent of Beth Horon, Yahweh hurled down great stones from the sky to them and Azekah, and they died. There were no more who died from the hailstones than those whom the children of Israel killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to Yahweh in the day when Yahweh delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. He said in the sight of Israel, "Sun, stand still on Gibeon. You, moon, stop in the valley of Ajalon." The sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the nation had avenged themselves of their enemies. Isn't this written in the book of Jasher? The sun stayed in the middle of the sky and didn't hurry to go down about a whole day. There was no day like that before it or after it. That Yahweh listened to the voice of a man, for Yahweh fought for Israel. Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp of Gilgal. These 5 kings fled and hid themselves in the cave at Makkedah. Joshua was told, saying, "The 5 kings have been found, hidden in the cave at Makkedah." Joshua said, "Roll large stones to cover the cave's entrance, and set men by it to guard them. But don't stay there. Pursue your enemies and attack them from the rear. Don't allow them to enter into their cities, for Yahweh your God has delivered them into your hand." When Joshua and the children of Israel had finished killing them with a very great slaughter until they were consumed, and the remnant which remained of them had entered into the fortified cities, all the people returned to camp to Joshua at Makkedah in peace. None moved his tongue against any of the children of Israel. Then Joshua said, "Open the cave entrance and bring those 5 kings out of the cave to me." They did so, and brought those 5 kings out of the cave to him, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. When they brought those kings out of Joshua, Joshua called for all the men of Israel, and said to the chiefs of the men of war who went with him, "Come near, put your feet on the neck of these kings." They came near and put their feet on their necks. Joshua said to them, "Don't be afraid, nor be dismayed. Be strong and courageous, for Yahweh will do this to all your enemies against whom you fight." Afterward, Joshua struck them, put them to death, and hanged them on 5 trees. They were hanging on the trees until the evening. At the time of the going down of the sun, Joshua commanded, and they took them down off the trees, and threw them into the cave which they had hidden themselves, and laid great stones on the mouth of the cave which remain to this day. Joshua took Makkedah on that day, and struck it with the edge of the sword, with its king. He utterly destroyed it, and all the souls who were in it. He left no one remaining. He did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Joshua passed from Makkedah, and all Israel with him. Joshua passed from Libnah, and all Israel with him, to Lachish, and encamped against it and fought against it. Yahweh delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel. He took it on the second day, and struck it with the edge of the sword, with all the souls who were in it, according to all he had done in Libnah. Then Horam, king of Gezer, came up. Horam, king of Gezer, came up to help Lachish, and Joshua struck him and his people until he had left him and no one remaining. Joshua passed from Lachish and all Israel with him to Eglon, and they encamped against it and fought against it. They took it on that day and struck it with the edge of the sword. He utterly destroyed all the souls who were in it that day, according to all he had done in Lachish. Joshua went up from Eglon, and all Israel with him, to Hebron, and they fought against it. They took it and struck it with the edge of the sword, with its king, and all its cities, and all the souls who were in it. He left no one remaining, according to all that he had done to Eglon. But he utterly destroyed it. And all the souls who were in it. Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to Debir, and he fought against it. He took it with its king and its cities. They struck them with the edge of the sword, and utterly destroyed all the souls who were in it. He left no one remaining. As he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir, and to its king, as he had done to Libnah, and to its king. So Joshua struck all the land, the hill country, the south, the lowland, the slopes, and all their kings. He left no one remaining, but he utterly destroyed all that breathed, as Yahweh the God of Israel commanded. Joshua struck them from Kadesh Barnea, even to Gaza, and all the country of Goshen, even to Gibeon. Joshua took all these kings and their land at one time, because Yahweh the God of Israel fought for Israel. Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp of Gilgal. When Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of it, he sent to Jobab, king of Madon, to the king of Shimron, to the king of Ashaph, and to the kings who were in the north, in the hill country, to Arabah south of Chinneroth, in the lowland, and in the heights of Dor on the west, to the Canaanite on the east, and to the west, the Amorite, the Hittite, and the Perizzite, the Jebusite in the hill country, and the Hivite under Hermon in the land of Mizpah. They went out, they and all their armies with them, many people, even as the sand that is on the seashore, in multitude, with very many horses and chariots. All these kings met together, and they came and encamped together at the waters of Merom to fight with Israel. Yahweh said to Joshua, "Don't be afraid because of them, for tomorrow at this time I will deliver up all slain before Israel. You shall hamstring their horses and burn their chariots with fire." So Joshua came suddenly with all the warriors against them by the waters of Merom, and attacked them. Yahweh delivered them into the hand of Israel, and they struck them and chased them to Great Sidon, and to Misrephoth Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah eastward. They struck them until they left no one remaining. Joshua did to them as Yahweh told him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots with fire. Joshua turned back at that time and took Hazor and struck its king with the sword. For Hazor used to be the head of all those kingdoms. They struck all the souls who were in it with the edge of the sword, utterly destroying them. There was no one left who breathed. He burned Hazor with fire. Joshua captured all the cities of the kings with their kings, and he struck them with the edge of the sword and utterly destroyed them, as Moses the servant of Yahweh commanded. But as for the cities that stood on their mounds, Israel burned none of them, except Hazor only. Joshua burned that. The children of Israel took all the plunder of these cities, with the livestock, as plunder for themselves, but every man they struck with the edge of the sword, until they had destroyed them. They didn't leave any who breathed. As Yahweh commanded Moses his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua. Joshua did so. He left nothing undone of all that Yahweh had commanded Moses. So Joshua captured all that land, the hill country, all the south, all the land of Goshen, the lowland, the Arabah, the hill country of Israel, and the lowland of the same. From Mount Halak that goes up to Seir, even to Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, under Mount Hermon, he took all their kings, struck them, and put them to death. Joshua made war a long time with all those kings. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. They took all in battle, for it was of Yahweh to harden their hearts, to come against Israel in battle, that he may utterly destroy them, so that they might have no favour, but that he might destroy them, as Yahweh commanded Moses. Joshua came at that time, and cut off the Anakim from the hill country, from Hebron to Debir, from Anab, and from the hill country of Judah, and from the hill country of Israel. Joshua utterly destroyed them with their cities. There were none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel. Only Gaza, in Gath, and Ashdod did some remain. So Joshua took the whole land, according to that which Yahweh spoke to Moses, and Joshua gave it for an inheritance to Israel, according to the divisions, by their tribes. Then the land had rest from war. Now these are the kings of the land, whom the children of Israel struck, and possessed their land beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise, from the valley of the Arnon to Mount Hermon, and all the Arabah eastward. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon and ruled from Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and the middle of the valley, and half Gilead, even to the river Jabbok, and the border of the children of Ammon, and Arabah to the sea of Chenneroth eastward, and to the sea of the Arabah, even the salt sea eastward, the way to Beth Jemishon, and to the south under the slopes of Pisgah, and the border of Og, king of Bashan, on the remnant of the Rephaim, who lived at Ashtaroth and at Adri, and ruled in Mount Hermon, and in Selekah, and in all Bashan, to the border of the Geshurites and the Machithites, and half Gilead, the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses the servant of Yahweh and the children of Israel struck them. Moses the servant of Yahweh gave it for possession to the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh. These are the kings of the land whom Joshua and the children of Israel struck beyond the Jordan westward, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, even to Mount Halak that goes up to Seir. Joshua gave it to the tribes of Israel for a possession, according to their divisions, in the hill country and in the lowland, and in the Arabah, and in the slopes and in the wilderness, and in the south, the Hittite, the Amorite, and the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. The king of Jericho, 1. The king of Ai, which is beside Bethel, 1. The king of Jerusalem, 1. The king of Hebron, 1. The king of Jarmuth, 1. The king of Lachish, 1. The king of Eglon, 1. The king of Gezer, 1. The king of Debir, 1. The king of Gader, 1. The king of Hormah, 1. The king of Arad, 1. The king of Libnah, 1. The king of Almah, 1. The king of Makkedah, 1. The king of Bethel, 1. The king of Papua, 1. The king of Hepher, 1. The king of Aphek, 1. The king of Lashoran, 1. The king of Madon, 1. The king of Hazor, 1. The king of Shimron Meron, 1. The king of Ashaph, 1. The king of Tanakh, 1. The king of Megiddo, 1. The king of Kadesh, 1. The king of Joniam in Carmel, 1. The king of Dor in the height of Dor, 1. The king of Goyim in Gilgal, 1. The king of Tirzah, 1. All the kings, 31. Now Joshua was old and well advanced in years. Yahweh said to him, "You are old and advanced in years, and there remains yet very much land to be possessed. This is the land that still remains, all the regions of the Philistines, and all the Gershurites, from the Saran, which is before Egypt, even to the borders of Ekron, north, which is counted as Canaanite, the 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazites, and the Ashdodites, the Ashkenites, the Gittites, the Ekronites, also the Avim, on the south all the land of the Canaanites, and Mira that belongs to the Sidonites, to Aphek, to the border of the Amorites, and to the land of the Gebalites, and all Lebanon, toward the sunrise, from Baal-gad under Mount Hermon to the entrance of Hamath, all the inhabitants of the hill country from Lebanon to Meseroth Main, even all the Sidonites, I will drive them out before the children of Israel. Just to allocate it to Israel for an inheritance, as I have commanded you. Now therefore divide this land for an inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh. With him was the Reubenites and the Gadites. With him the Reubenites and the Gadites received their inheritance, which Moses gave them, and beyond the Jordan eastward, even as Moses the servant of Yahweh gave them, from Aror, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the valley, and the plain of Midabur in Dibon. All the cities of the Sihon king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, to the children of the borders of the Ammon, and Gilead, and the border of the Geshurites and the Maccathites, and all of Mount Hermon, and all Bashan to Silica. All the kingdom of Og in Bashan, who reigned in Ashtoreth, and in Edrei, who was left out of the remnant of Rephaim. For Moses attacked these and drove them out. Nevertheless, the children of Israel didn't drive out the Gershurites, nor the Maccathites, but Gersher and Maacath live within Israel to this day. Only he gave no inheritance to the tribe of Levi. The offerings of Yahweh, the God of Israel, made by fire, are his inheritance, as he spoke to them. Moses gave to the tribe of the children of Reuben according to their families. Their border was from Aror, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the valley, and all the plain by Medeba. Heshbon and all its cities that are in the plain, Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal, Meon, Jesha, Kedemoth, Mephath, Kerethaim, Sibmah, Zereth Shahar in the mount of the valley, Beth Peor in the slopes of Pisgah, Beth Jemoth, all the cities of the plain, and all the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, whom Moses struck with the chiefs of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the princes of Sihon, who lived in the land. The children of Israel also killed Balaam the son of Beor, the soothsayer, with the sword, among the rest of the slain. The border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben according to their families, the cities and its villages. Moses gave to the tribe of Gad, to the children of Gad, according to their families. Their border was Jazer, and all the cities of Gilead, and half the land of the children of Ammon, to Auror, which is near Rabbah, and from the Heshbon to Ramath-Pisgah, and Betoim, and from Menaim to the border of Debir, and in the valley, Beth-Haram, Beth-Nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, the rest of the kingdom of Sihon, king of Heshbon, to the Jordan's bank, the utmost part of the sea of Chinnereth, behind the Jordan eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad, according to their families, the cities and its villages. Moses gave an inheritance to the half-tribe of Manasseh. It was for the half-tribe of the children of Manasseh according to their families. Their border was from Mahanaim, all Bashan, all the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, and all the villages of Jair, which are in Bashan, 60 cities. Half Gilead, Ashtaroth, and Edrei, the cities of kingdom of Og in Bashan, were for the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, even for the half-children of Machir, according to their families. These are the inheritances which Moses distributed in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan at Jericho eastward. But Moses gave no inheritance to the tribe of Levi. Yahweh, the God of Israel, is their inheritance, as he spoke to them. These are the inheritances which the children of Israel took in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel distributed to them, by lot of their inheritance, as Yahweh commanded by Moses, for the 9 tribes and for the half-tribe. For Moses had given the inheritance of the 2 tribes and the half-tribe beyond the Jordan, but to the Levites he gave no inheritance among them. For the children of Joseph were 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. They gave no portion to the Levites in the land, except cities to dwell in, with their pasture lands for their livestock and for their property. The children of Israel did as Yahweh commanded Moses, and they divided the land. Then the children of Judah came near to Joshua in Gilgal. Caleb the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know the thing that Yahweh spoke to Moses, the man of God, concerning me and concerning you in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of Yahweh, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again, as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brother, who went up with me, made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed Yahweh my God. Moses swore on that day, saying, 'Surely the land where you walked shall be an inheritance to you and to your children forever, because you have wholly followed Yahweh my God.' Now behold, Yahweh has kept me alive, as he spoke those 45 years, from the time Yahweh spoke this word to Moses, while Israel walked in the wilderness. Now behold, I am 85 years old today. As yet I am as strong today as I was in the day Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now, for war, to go out, and to come in. Now therefore give me this hill country of which Yahweh spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how Anakim were there, and great and fortified cities. It may be that Yahweh will be near with me, and I shall drive them out, as Yahweh said." Joshua blessed him, and he gave him Hebron, and he gave Hebron to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, for an inheritance. Therefore Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he followed Yahweh, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Now the name of Hebron before was Kiriath Arba, after the greatest man among the Anakim. Then the land had rest from war. The lot for the tribe of the children of Judah, according to their families, was to the border of Edom, even to the wilderness of Zin southward, and the utmost part of the south. Their south border was from the utmost part of the Salt Sea, from the bay that looks southward, and it went out southward of the ascent of Arakib, and passed along to Zin, and went up by the south of Kadesh Barnea, and passed along by Hezir, and went up to Adar, and turned to Karka. And it passed along to Asmon, went out at the brook of Egypt, and the border ended at the sea. This shall be your south border. The east border was the Salt Sea, even to the end of the Jordan. The border went up to the north quarter, from the bay of the sea at the end of the Jordan. The border went up to Beth Hulgal, and passed along by the north of Beth Arba. And the border went up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. The border went up to Debir from the valley of Achor, and so northward, looking towards Gilgal, that faces the ascent of Adumim, which is on the south side of the river. The border passed along the waters of En-Hinnom, to the side of the Jebusites, also called Jerusalem, southward. And the border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the farthest part of the valley of Rephaim northward. The border extended from the top of the mountain to the spring of the water of Nephtoah, and went out to the cities of Mount Ephron. And the border extended to Bala, also called Kiriath Jearim. And the border turned about from Bela westward to Mount Seir, and passed along to the side of Mount Jearam, also called Chesalon, on the north, and went down to Beth Shemesh, and passed along by Timnah. And the border went along to the side of Ekron northward, and the border extended to Shekeron, and passed along to Mount Bala, and went out to Jabneel, and the goings of the border were at the sea. The west border was to the shore of the great sea. This is the border of the children of Judah according to their families. He gave to Caleb the son of Jephunneh a portion among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of Yahweh to Joshua, even Kiriath Arba, named after the father of Anak, also called Hebron. Caleb drove out the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai and Amiah and Talmai, the children of Anak. He went up against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir was Kiriath Sepher. Caleb said, "He who strikes Kiriath Sepher and takes it to him, I will give Ashah, my daughter, as his wife." Othniel the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, took it, and he gave him Ashkah as a daughter, his daughter as a wife. When she came, she had him ask her father for a field. She got off her donkey, and Caleb said, "What do you want?" She said, "Give me a blessing, because you have set me in the land of the south. Give me also springs of water." So he gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah, according to their families. The farthest cities of the tribe of the children of Judah towards the border of Edom in the south were Kabzeel, Ader, Jagur, Kena, Dimnah, Adada, Kera, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazor Hatatad, Kerioth Hirzon, also called Hazor, Amon, Shema, Molidah, Hazagadah, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazashul, Beersheba, Bizileth, Bela, Lim, Ezem, Etalad, Chesil, Hormah, Ziglag, Madamazah, Sisana, Lebaoth, Hilim, Ain, and Rimmon. All the cities are 29 with their villages. In the lowland, Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zorah, En-Gammim, Tabua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Socker, Ezegeth, Sharim, Adithim, and Gedera, or Gederethim, 14 cities with their villages. Zinan, Hadashah, Migdal-Gad, Dilian, Mizpah, Joktheel, Lekosh, Bozath, Eglon, Kabon, Laham, Chitleth, Jedereth, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Mekkedah, 16 cities with their villages. Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iftar, Ashnan, Nezib, Keilah, Ashzib, and Mashna, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron with its towns and villages. From Ekron even to the sea, all that were by the side of Ashdod with their villages. Ashdod, its towns and its villages. Gaza, its towns and its villages, to the brook of Egypt and the great sea with its coastline. In the hill country, Shamir, Jatir, Succoth, Dana, Kiriath Sana, which is Debir. Anab, Eshtemo, Anir, Goshen, Holon, and Gailah, 11 cities with their villages. Arab, Duma, Ishan, Jamin, Beth Tapuel, Aphekah, Humtam, Kiriath Arba, also called Hebron, and Zior, 9 cities with their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Judah, Jezreel, Joktiam, Jonah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities with their villages. Halhul, Beth Zur, Gidor, Merath, Beth Anom, and Etikon, 6 cities with their villages. Kiriath Baal, also called Kiriath Jearim, and Reba, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Midin, Sekah, Nashbon, and the city of Salt in Eshgedi, 6 cities with their villages. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah couldn't drive them out. But the Jebusites live with the children of Judah at Jerusalem to this day.